Emo culture. Laughable at its worst and astonishing at its best. From edgy emo kids trying too hard to emo musicians dominating charts. How is this small subgenre of punk music that formed in the 1980s by such bands as Rites of Spring, Matter Soulside, to many subgenres of emo itself, even creating a fashion trend which also spawned multiple other fashion trends? In this video, I will be covering the story of emo music from its beginning all the way to our current year, covering its worst and most cringy, and its best and most respected. This video will be different from my others. I will be putting timestamps in the description where the other topics begin and end, so if you don't want to watch the beginning of emo and want to see the current day or my opinion, you can go right ahead. But if you're still here, enjoy the ride as we explore the emo subculture. Before we start though, I should probably bring this up. Many people consider Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys to be the first ever emo album. I personally do not think so, but let's just get into the main point. Let's go back all the way to the 1980s, where the Washington, D.C. hardcore punk scene was at an all-time high. Minor Threat fan Guy Picciotto formed the band Rites of Spring. The band followed the hardcore punk style while combining it with melodic melodies, sad, and emotional lyrics. Rites of Spring's lyrical themes varied from nostalgia to romantic bitterness. These themes would become tropes within the future emo genre and subgenres. Live performances would cause the fans to even cry because of how sad the lyrical content was. Funny enough, Ian MacKaye of Minor Threat became a fan of Rites of Spring and even helped the band record their first record. Later, MacKaye would form the band Embrace, which followed many similar themes to Rites of Spring, such as self-searching and emotional release. Many other bands followed in Embrace's footsteps, where this led to 1985's Revolution Summer, where multiple attempts were made to stray from the hardcore punk standard and venture out to different lyrical content. Bands in the movement included Beefeater, Dag Nasty, Matter, and Soulside. The actual origins of the term emo are kind of shrouded in mystery though. Andy Greenwald said the name originated from the term emotional hardcore, or emo-core for short. Ian MacKaye heard the same term from Thrasher magazine and said, "It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life." Many people labeled bands under MacKaye's label Dischord Records as emo-core. Most bands under this label never would use the term though. The Washington emo scene only lasted a few years, where in 1986 most emo bands had broken up. These included Rites of Spring and Embrace. Luckily, the aesthetics of the genre spread across the country and laid down the groundwork for what was to come. In the early to mid-90s, emo music started to really settle in, with less of the hardcore punk vibes, and was more involved with the newly mainstream genres indie rock and pop punk. Bands that really helped get the new genres out there included Jawbreaker and Sunny Day Real Estate. These bands would redefine the emo genre and get it ever so much closer to mainstream status. In 1991, Nirvana's Nevermind exploded, leading people to look more into underground subgenres and scenes. Emo was luckily one of the many genres to get that little shimmer of light. Young people across America became fans of underground scenes, and punk became mainstream. One of the biggest emo-ish bands to come out of this time was Weezer. They released their first self-titled album in 1994, and only a year later it went 2 times platinum. According to NME, Weezer's debut album pretty much invented emo's melodic wing. Another emo band, Jimmy Eat World, emerged at this time. Their self-titled album came out in 1994 as well. It didn't quite go to the same length as Weezer's debut though. Shortly after this, many other bands would shoot off into the scene. These bands included Green Day and The Offspring, with Green Day's Dookie going diamond and The Offspring's Smash going 6 times platinum. Emo reformed itself and became a national subculture for the next few years. Emo started to stray from its original hardcore punk sound for a more punk rock feel with smooth yet sloppy melodies and yearning vocals. Many emo bands at this time had a distinctive vocal style and guitar sound. This would later become the basis of an emo subgenre, Midwest emo. Andy Greenwald said, "This was the period where emo earned many, if not all, the stereotypes that have lasted to this day. boy-driven, glasses-wearing, overly sensitive, overly brainy, chiming, guitar-driven college music. The band Lifetime played a very important role in this time period, with their Hello Bastards being the cornerstone for New Jersey and Long Island bands such as My Chemical Romance, Senses Fail, and Taking Back Sunday. A huge part of the mid-90s emo scene was Weezer's Pinkerton. Back in 1996, Pinkerton was a massive flop. Yet nowadays is considered one of the best albums to come out of the 90s emo scene. Emo music kept growing through the 90s. Blink-182 is not quite considered an emo band, but they've released a song in this time period that was considered emo. The song, entitled Adam's Song, off their album 1999, which the album did go 5 times platinum. Shortly after the turn of the decade, going into the new millennium, Weezer released their album, well, funnily enough, a second self-titled album. Called the Green Album by fans, the album strayed from their Pinkerton days for a more pop-rock-driven sound because Rivers Cuomo felt Pinkerton was an ugly and embarrassing representation of the band. The album would be considered emo pop by AllMusic. The album was certified platinum the same year. This seems like emo made its mark in the music industry, right? Well, hold on and get ready for the 2000s. In the summer of 2002, emo music and subculture began to see a boom, and everyone in the world was talking about it. This sudden rise also had its, I'd say, somewhat cringy, not always, but sometimes fashion. Most people who dressed emo had short dyed black hair and thrift store clothes, either that or band tees. But you get the picture. Emo was at the top of everything. The Middle by Jimmy Eat World topped Billboard's alternative charts. It just takes some time, little girl in the middle of the ride. Dashboard Confessional was the first non-platinum selling band to get an episode of MTV Unplugged. Saves the Day would tour with Green Day and Weezer, playing at arenas such as Madison Square Garden. Needless to say, emo was at an all-time high. Ohio is for Lovers by Hawthorne Heights is considered to be the emo anthem by many people. Bands to come out of this time period included My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, AFI, Plain White T's, Panic at the Disco, and Paramore. Wait a minute, how could I forget? Fall Out Boy's album Infinity on High topped the Billboard Top 100. AFI's December Underground peaked at #1. Hey There Delilah by the Plain White T's also peaked at #1.
Hey there Delilah, what's it like in New York City? I'm 1,000 miles away, but girl, tonight you look so pretty, yes you do. Times Square can shine as bright as...
The bands Underoath and the previously mentioned band Hawthorne Heights were the bands that popularized the emo subgenre screamo, a genre that followed the hardcore punk and emo roots, but with a more dissonant sound. After this, the 2000s emo music began to fall in popularity and never would reach the success it did, ever again.
I was just a boy, we'll call it 15 or so. I found myself annoyed by a syndrome of sorts in my bones.
In the 2010s, many emo bands began to change their sound entirely. MCR's Danger Days, The True Lies of the Fabulous Killjoys followed a more traditional pop-punk sound. Both Fall Out Boy and Paramore also abandoned the emo genre. Fall Out Boy didn't stray too far though and kinda stayed in that pop-rock territory, whereas Paramore went in a new wave direction. Panic at the Disco moved far away from their emo pop sounds for a more synth pop style. Little thing I personally feel like, Panic kinda isn't Panic anymore, it's more just Brent and Yuri and his backing band. But that's just my opinion. Many bands would also break up. This even included MCR. Yes, I know My Chemical Romance would later get back together, but anyways. Although, at the same time, an underground revival began to rise. Bands in the revival included Modern Baseball, Empire Empire, I Was a Lonely Estate, and Touche Amore. Bands here would draw its sound and aesthetic from 90s emo music. Another form of this revival is a more hardcore punk-driven form, followed by bands such as Title Fight and Small Brown Bike. I shortly talked about the subgenre Screamo, but I want to take a look at some other subgenres. I will be choosing 2 subgenres that I enjoy a lot, which are Midwest Emo and Post-Hardcore. Yes, I know Post-Hardcore is a founder of emo music, but shut up, okay? Just let me talk about it. So first, Midwest Emo. The genre formed in the mid-90s by bands such as American Football and The Promise Ring. I have a feeling a lot of you know exactly who American Football is just because of that one song that is in a lot of memes. Anyways, there is a band that I like a lot that is kind of part of the genre. They call themselves Easycore, but they can also fall in here. Washington, D.C. band Origami Angel, a 2-piece consisting of singer and guitarist Ryland, I hope I'm not butchering this, Higi, and drummer Pat Doherty. I hope I'm not butchering that, because these guys are awesome. The band follows the standard of Midwest emo with the twinkly high leads, but they also have a hardcore, crunchy, and heavy edge. The band just recently released their second album, which is absolute perfection. You definitely should go listen to it. The second genre I'd like to talk about is post-hardcore. Post-hardcore is a subgenre of hardcore punk that strays from the heavy, loud, and fast rules mindset vocals, and instead went for more yelpy or whiny vocals. A band I'd like to look at from the genre is The Venetia Fair, specifically their first album, The Circus. The Circus is a concept album that follows the theme of a circus and its multiple show tents. The first 3 songs are almost like an opening act, where the songs after this are all the tents, such as the song The Ringleader, who is bringing us into the shows, and with the first show being the Animals tent. Then we move to the Performers tent. We even get to see the Sideshow tent. We even get a massive theatrical story told to us in the final song, The Clowns and the Escape. If you haven't heard of this band, you need to give their entire discography a listen. You will not be disappointed. Another subgenre I'd like to quickly talk about is emo rap, a genre that mixes the emo affliction and instrumentation with rap instrumentals. The genre is kinda looked down upon by original emotional hardcore musicians, I guess, at least. The genre was brought to popularity by XXXTentacion and Lil Peep. Sadly, both have passed away in 2018 and 2017 respectively. X was murdered and Peep overdosed on fentanyl and Xanax. So here we are, 2021, and emo has a place that I feel is perfect for the genre. The music that comes out now is still awesome, and I'd give it a listen almost every time a new release comes out. Emo has a place in my heart that can never be taken away. But besides that, thank you guys for watching. Sorry for taking a long time to finish this. I needed some time to fix my motives because my mental health kinda took a slump. I've been just trying to fix that for the past month. Thank you for everyone who watched and enjoyed it. Please like and comment. Also, don't forget to sub for more video essays just like this one. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.